Hello and welcome to Science Reshaped, a quiet sanctuary in the vast ocean of the cosmos, a space where curiosity can rest beside wonder, and your thoughts can drift freely like starlight across an endless sky. Tonight, we'll embark on a journey both familiar and mysterious. We won't just look up at the stars and marvel at the infinite distances between them. We'll also look inward, into the silent space behind the eyes, toward the awareness that observes it all. You've looked at the night sky before, maybe from your window, maybe from a lonely road, maybe from the quiet of your room. Those stars you saw were scattered like forgotten lanterns, glowing patiently against the dark. And perhaps, even for a fleeting moment, you wondered what all of it was really made of. Not only atoms, particles, or waves of energy, but the invisible presence that sees them, the witness behind perception itself. There's an idea that is at once soft and startling, that the universe may not only exist, it may know that it exists, that beyond matter, beyond the mathematics of creation, there lies awareness, a gentle, observing consciousness threading through everything that is. Before we begin unfolding this story, I'd love it if you could take a quiet moment to like this video and subscribe to Science Reshaped, only if these calm, late-night explorations resonate with you. And when you're ready, leave a comment below. Tell me where in the world you're listening from, and what time it is for you right now. It's always beautiful to see how minds from every corner of Earth gather here, each of us in our own small slice of time, staring into the same universe. Now, take a deep breath, dim the lights if you can, let the room grow still, maybe turn on a small fan for that comforting hum that fills the quiet. Allow your thoughts to soften and settle. Tonight, we'll gently begin our journey into this proves that the entire universe is in someone's mind. And if your mind begins to wander during the story, let it. That's perfectly fine. Let your thoughts float like dust motes through sunlight. We'll still be here, patiently unfolding the mystery, together. Imagine for a moment that the entire universe is an enormous painting, one so vast and intricate that no frame could ever contain it. Every atom, every star, every movement of a living creature is a single brushstroke on that infinite canvas. But what if the paint itself, the very substance of creation, was aware of the masterpiece it was becoming? What if, beneath every law of physics, beneath the equations and constants that hold reality together, there lies something quieter, a living, breathing awareness woven through everything that exists, from the first glow of ancient stars to the spark of your own thoughts? The same silent observer might be watching through countless eyes. It may sound strange, almost poetic, but for thousands of years, philosophers, mystics, and scientists have returned to this same suspicion, that consciousness isn't something that happens inside the universe. It may very well be what the universe is. When you close your eyes and picture the world, the sounds, the colors, the textures of life, all of it unfolds inside the vast landscape of your awareness. You don't step outside yourself to touch reality. Instead, reality flows inward through your senses, and then your mind rebuilds it, shaping it again as a living world within you. Every mountain you've admired, every sky you've watched at dusk, has existed twice, once in the outer realm of matter and once in the quiet, inner theater of consciousness. And if that is true for you, perhaps it's true on a much larger scale. Perhaps the universe itself possesses an inner life, a grand consciousness that reflects itself through us. From the ancient temples of India to the lecture halls of modern Europe, from the sands of Egypt to the philosophy of Greece, this whisper has persisted through time. Does mind come from matter or matter from mind? Maybe it's both. Maybe what we call matter is simply mind seen from the outside, and what we call mind is matter seen from within. Science, of course, prefers to stay grounded in what can be measured and observed. But even measurement requires a measurer, and that's where the lines begin to blur. Every experiment, every observation, every discovery depends on the presence of awareness. We can't remove consciousness from the study of the universe, because without it, there is no one to do the studying. Some scientists now believe this isn't a flaw in our method, it's a clue, a subtle hint that consciousness might not be a late arrival in the cosmic story. It might be the very page upon which the story itself is written. Think of it this way. Long before life existed, the universe was already communicating. Atoms collided, light stretched across the dark, Gravity whispered its rhythm through the fabric of space. Every interaction was a kind of conversation, written in the language of physics. Over billions of years, those simple exchanges wove themselves into intricate complexity. Molecules forming cells, cells forming creatures, creatures developing minds. And one day, somewhere on a quiet blue planet, the universe finally turned its gaze upon itself and asked, "What am I?" That question, that simple act of wondering, was the universe remembering itself. You are part of that memory. We all are. There's something quietly miraculous in that realization. It suggests that consciousness isn't confined to the small space behind your eyes. Instead, it stretches outward like light diffusing through mist, touching everything that exists. Some have called it the cosmic mind. Others name it the field of awareness. Some simply call it nature thinking about itself. Whatever name we choose, the feeling remains the same. That your thoughts, your perceptions, your very sense of being alive are not random accidents of evolution, but echoes of something that began long before the first human ever existed. And if we look at it from another angle, this isn't just philosophy or mysticism. Even the most advanced studies in modern physics, when they peer deep enough into the subatomic realm, begin to find traces of something eerily familiar: awareness. Quantum mechanics reveals that particles don't take definite form until they are observed. In an astonishing way, the act of observation itself seems to shape what is observed. Reality doesn't unfold on its own. It waits for consciousness to arrive. It's as if the universe refuses to exist without an audience, and that audience somehow is part of the show. So maybe we've had it backward all along. Perhaps consciousness doesn't emerge from the complexity of the brain like fire from wood. Maybe complexity itself emerges from consciousness. Just as an artist discovers what a blank canvas can become, the universe might be painting itself into form, dreaming itself into existence. Every galaxy, every particle, every fleeting human thought might be part of that same unfolding dream. And if this feels too vast to grasp, start small. Picture a ripple spreading across still water. Each wave seems separate, yet all belong to the same motion. Your mind, my mind, the thoughts of every living thing. They're all ripples in one endless ocean of knowing. The sea doesn't stop being one ocean just because the waves look different. The cosmos too might be like that. One immense consciousness, momentarily dividing itself into billions of perspectives, just to experience what it feels like to be many. When you look up tonight and see the stars shining across the dark, they might seem distant, unreachable. But what if they are part of the same thought that brought you into being? The same thought that shaped atoms into life and silence into the whisper of your own name. The idea that all is mind isn't about denying the physical universe. It's about recognizing that imagination itself may be written into the very structure of reality. The cosmos might not be a machine at all. It might be a meditation. A living dream reflecting itself endlessly through every form that exists. As we continue this quiet exploration, we'll follow that thread, tracing the path of consciousness through science, philosophy, and time itself, to see how mind and matter might not be strangers, but reflections of the same eternal awareness. For now, just breathe. Let your thoughts slow down. Feel the air move through you. Every breath you take may be the universe thinking softly through you. One endless consciousness, remembering itself through every heartbeat. If we trace this delicate thread a little further, we discover that consciousness didn't appear suddenly. It wasn't a spark in the dark that burst into existence overnight. Instead, it was more like a whisper traveling through time, faint at first, then slowly gathering strength, voice, and memory. The universe began in perfect silence, a sea of light and energy expanding from something smaller than imagination itself. In that first moment, there were no eyes to see, no minds to wonder, only the soft unfolding of potential into form. Over billions of years, that quiet expansion cooled and condensed into matter, and matter began to organize itself. From the untamed energy of the early cosmos came the first atoms, the simplest stories the universe could tell about itself. Then came the stars, massive forges where hydrogen and helium learned to become something heavier, something new. Each one burned, lived, and died, scattering stardust through the darkness, dust that would one day remember where it came from. Now, when you look at yourself, sitting here, breathing, thinking, wondering, you are witnessing that same story continuing in a new form. The atoms in your bones were born inside stars that lived and died billions of years ago. The calcium that strengthens your skeleton once existed in the heart of a supernova. The iron flowing through your blood once circled within the blazing core of a dying sun. You are literally made of the universe, remembering itself. And somewhere along that long cosmic journey, perhaps without intention or plan, those scattered pieces of stardust learn to ask questions. But how did the gentle hum of atoms become the living pulse of awareness? How did raw energy transform into thought? Some say it was pure chance. That consciousness is nothing more than an accident of complexity. But others, like the philosopher Spinoza in the 17th century, found that explanation too small for something so vast. He believed the universe wasn't a collection of separate things, but one immense, living whole. An expression of what he called divine nature. Nothing in the cosmos, he wrote, happens by random chance. Everything follows the necessity of its own nature. Order, he believed, isn't imposed upon the universe from outside. It is the heartbeat of the universe itself. If that's true, then consciousness might not be a fluke at all. It might be what happens when the universe becomes aware of its own order, when the pattern of nature begins to notice itself. After all, randomness and consciousness make poor companions. Randomness doesn't reflect, doesn't remember, doesn't reach for understanding, but awareness does all of those things. The very act of asking why suggests that understanding is already woven into reality itself. Imagine a snowflake forming in a winter cloud. What looks like chaos becomes perfect symmetry. The molecules could take countless shapes, yet they settle into a pattern as though following a hidden instruction, a silent design written in ice. Consciousness may be like that pattern, not imposed from above, but arising naturally from the fabric of existence itself. Over time, that faint whisper of awareness deepened. It flowed through the veins of being, from the soft responsiveness of single-celled life to the vivid emotions of animals that dream, grieve, and love. Even before memory, before language, there was something in life that could feel, that responded to warmth and pain, motion and stillness. With each new layer of complexity, the universe learned more about itself. The flame of awareness didn't appear suddenly. It climbed, slowly and patiently, through the ladder of life, finding new ways to see, to feel, to name itself. You might imagine consciousness as a rising light seen through fog. At first only a faint glow, impossible to define. Then the mist clears and shapes begin to form, and by the time that light reaches the surface, it shines as the clarity of thought, as the awareness that says, I am. But that light was always there, hidden beneath the layers of unknowing. We often assume that the universe began as matter and somehow produced mind. But what if the opposite is true? What if mind was always present, and matter was its way of exploring itself? Picture the earliest life drifting in the primordial oceans, tiny, fragile organisms following warmth, reacting to light, moving toward energy and away from harm. In them, we glimpse the first flicker of choice, a faint hint of purpose. Over millions of years, that faint pulse grew stronger. Nerves formed, then brains, then networks of thought capable of reflection. Evolution didn't invent consciousness from nothing. It shaped it like a sculptor revealing form from clay. The potential for experience had always been there, waiting quietly for the chance to know itself. This idea isn't mystical. It's natural when you see how awareness fits effortlessly into the order of things. If gravity draws mass together and electricity pulls opposite charges, perhaps consciousness draws meaning, the universe's way of gathering understanding. It pulls the scattered into the coherent, the uncertain into the known. You can feel that process within yourself every time confusion settles into clarity, or when a vague emotion crystallizes into a thought. In that moment, you are reenacting the same principle that shaped galaxies. Chaos becoming order, the scattered becoming whole. The difference is not in kind, but in scale. Perhaps that's the quiet truth that science has been circling for centuries. That consciousness is not an exception to natural law, but its continuation. Every formula, every constant, every rhythm of the physical universe describes not a dead mechanism, but a living pattern, a cosmic rhythm that breathes awareness into being. Even the empty space between stars isn't truly empty. It hums with invisible energy. a sea of quantum vibrations whispering possibilities into existence. And somewhere within that hum, consciousness listens. Maybe that's why humans have always felt the need to look up, not just to know where we are, but to recognize ourselves in what we see. When you gaze into the night sky and catch the glimmer of ancient light, something deep inside you stirs. It's as though the same awareness that formed those stars is looking back through your eyes. The light that left them millions of years ago has finally reached its destination, a mind capable of understanding it. You are, in a very real sense, the universe observing its own history. Spinoza might say that when you stand in awe beneath the stars, you're not a separate observer. You are the same divine nature, pausing for a moment to admire its own reflection, like a wave realizing it belongs to the ocean. The universe folds in on itself, creating beings who can feel wonder, not as decoration, but as revelation. And so, consciousness continues to expand, not across space, but within understanding. From the faint sensitivity of the first cell to the self-reflective mind within you right now, awareness has been whispering through time, saying softly, I see, I feel, I am. And if the universe itself could speak, perhaps it would say exactly the same. Our quiet journey now drifts toward a question that sits at the center of every conversation about awareness. A question so subtle and mysterious that it bridges philosophy, science and poetry alike. What is consciousness? Not the electrical impulses we can see on a scan, not the firing of neurons when you see color or feel joy, but the experience itself, the vivid feeling of being alive, of knowing that you exist, and that you are the one perceiving it. Philosophers call this the hard problem of consciousness. But tonight, let's approach it more gently as the soft mystery of experience itself. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the color red. You can picture it clearly. Maybe it feels warm, vibrant, alive. But where does that experience live? It isn't in the wavelength of light. That's only a rhythm, a number, a vibration. It isn't in your eyes. They're simply lenses, translators. And even the brain, for all its complexity, doesn't contain the experience. Because even if we could map every neuron that lights up when you imagine that red hue, the map wouldn't be the experience. Somewhere between matter and meaning, between physics and feeling, something unexplainable happens. Something turns information into experience. Scientists can describe how light enters the eye, how signals travel through the nervous system, how the brain decodes them, but why it feels like anything at all, why there is an inner life behind the pattern, remains untouched. It's as if the universe built the most intricate machine imaginable, and then quietly slipped something into it that made it more than machinery. That unseen ingredient, that invisible something, is what we call consciousness, and no matter how deep our instruments reach, no measurement seems able to catch it. For centuries, people believed consciousness was a divine spark, a gift granted only to humans, separating us from all other creatures. But as science deepened its gaze, that sharp divide began to fade. We learned that animals dream, remember, plan, and even mourn. Octopuses solve puzzles, crows craft tools, elephants grieve. Ravens plan for tomorrow. Even trees, rooted in silence, exchange messages through their roots, sharing nutrients, warnings, and signals in their quiet underground networks. So maybe consciousness isn't a single light suddenly switched on in one species. Maybe it's a dawn, a gradual brightening that began long before us and continues to rise across all forms of life. If that's true, it leads to a deeper question. How far back does this dawn stretch? When we speak of mind, we often picture a brain, a tangled forest of neurons glowing with electricity. But what if the brain is only one temporary form consciousness takes? One pattern it wears for a while, like a ripple on a vast sea. Think of water. It can freeze into ice, flow as a river, or drift as vapor, yet it's always the same essence. Maybe consciousness too takes different forms. Thought in humans, instinct in animals, silent patience in trees, radiant order in stars. We like to think consciousness belongs to us, but what if it's the other way around? What if we belong to it? Modern science has even begun to explore this through something called integrated information theory. The idea is simple, yet profound. The more deeply the parts of a system connect, share, and depend on one another, the more it glows from within with awareness. Your brain, for instance, is an astonishing example of integration. Billions of cells exchanging signals, weaving emotions, memories, and sensations into one seamless whole. That feeling of wholeness, of a unified self, might actually be consciousness, the system knowing itself. Now imagine scaling that idea upward. If awareness arises wherever information integrates deeply enough, then the entire universe, galaxies bound by gravity, atoms connected through light, could itself be the largest conscious system of all. A cosmic brain, not metaphorically, but structurally. Every star, every atom, could be a neuron in the mind of the cosmos. It sounds grand, almost poetic, yet it's a small step from what we already know. Nature thrives on connection. Nothing truly stands alone. Perhaps consciousness doesn't emerge from matter at all. Maybe it arises through the way matter organizes itself. It's not what we're made of that gives rise to awareness, but how the parts of us communicate. When information flows freely, when pieces of a system begin to mirror one another, awareness appears naturally, like music arising from strings that vibrate together in harmony. We can test this by looking closer. Picture a single atom, a small tidy knot of energy bound by invisible forces. It doesn't think, not as we do, but it responds. It reacts to light, to motion, to the pull of others nearby. That tiny interaction, that exchange of cause and effect, is already a kind of conversation. Scale it up. Molecules join the dance, combining, exchanging, forming patterns. Then cells appear, and their conversations grow more complex. Chemical whispers, electrical pulses, tiny codes of meaning passed from one to another. By the time we reach the human brain, billions of these interactions hum together at once, synchronized in a vast network of dialogue. Somewhere along that continuum, awareness stops being potential and becomes experience. There's no single moment when the lights turn on. Instead, consciousness grows gradually with complexity, the way the sky brightens before dawn. This makes the hard problem a little softer. Consciousness doesn't have to be explained as a sudden miracle. It can be seen as a continuum, the universe slowly learning to recognize itself. Still, a paradox lingers beneath it all. We say consciousness arises from integration, but who or what does the integrating? Does the universe need a separate observer to hold its awareness together? Or is awareness itself the thing doing the holding? Maybe the answer is simpler than it seems. Consciousness might be both the weaver and the thread, both the act of perceiving and the fabric being perceived. It isn't something inside the universe. It is the universe, seen from within. So when you wonder where your mind begins and where it ends, perhaps the truth is, it doesn't. Consciousness may be the field that allows everything to exist in the first place. The quiet ocean in which every ripple of reality takes form. Your thoughts, your feelings, your very awareness of being alive, they might just be localized waves in that infinite sea of perception. That sea, vast, silent and eternal, has been rising since the beginning of time, folding and unfolding through the stars, through galaxies, through you. Perhaps that's what philosophers once called spirit, what physicists describe as information, what poets whisper about as soul. Different names for the same quiet knowing, the same living awareness that holds everything together. And if that's true, then even the smallest experiences, a single breath, the shimmer of morning light, the scent of rain, becomes sacred. Each is a moment where the universe pauses and recognizes itself. The trail of clues now draws us toward a thought that feels at once strangely familiar and quietly unsettling. The possibility that consciousness does not merely exist within the universe, but that the universe itself might, in some unimaginable way, be conscious. At first, it sounds poetic, perhaps even absurd. How could something so vast, so ancient, possess awareness? Where would it reside? How would it think? Yet maybe those questions seem difficult only because we keep searching for a mind that mirrors our own. One that has edges, beginnings, and boundaries. If consciousness is truly fundamental, then perhaps it doesn't reside anywhere. Perhaps it is the space in which everything else resides. Imagine yourself walking through a forest just before sunrise. The air is thick with mist. glowing softly as dawn stretches its first light through the trees. Every sound, a bird stirring, a twig snapping, the faint rustle of leaves, feels both outside and within you. For a brief moment, the separation between observer and world dissolves. The forest seems alive, breathing with you. That fleeting feeling, that merging of being and seeing, might be a small glimpse of what philosophers call panpsychism, the idea that awareness is woven through everything that exists. This doesn't mean that rocks think or that planets dream. It means that the potential for experience, the essence of awareness, is universal, like gravity or light, pervading all matter in some quiet form. This idea is far from new. Over 2 millennia ago, the Greek philosopher Thales wrote that everything is full of gods. He didn't mean deities as we imagine them, but sparks of perception hidden within matter. Later, the Stoics described a world soul, one vast consciousness in which every individual mind participates. Even the modern philosopher Bertrand Russell, known for his sharp logic, suggested that mind and matter are not opposites at all, but twin expressions of one underlying reality. Across ages and civilizations, humanity keeps rediscovering the same whisper, that the universe is not a cold, mechanical construct, but a living field of awareness unfolding through form. And if that's true, then you and the cosmos are not two entities meeting across distance. You are one reality reflecting itself, like a wave rising from the ocean to recognize the sea from which it came. If awareness truly pervades all things, then perhaps galaxies colliding are the heartbeat of a greater being. The drift of stars could be its dreaming. Even the flow of time itself might be the rhythm of this grand consciousness. Thinking, pausing, and thinking again, here on this small planet. That same consciousness condenses into beings who speak, write, and wonder what it means to exist. Through us, the universe gives itself new metaphors: warmth, music, love, memory. When you feel awe, perhaps it is the cosmos feeling awe for its own creation. The philosopher Spinoza believed that God and nature are not two different things, but two words for the same infinite essence. A single being that both thinks and extends. Every finite mind, he said, is a mode of that infinite mind. Every thought, a spark of the divine contemplating itself. It's a vision that fits seamlessly with the modern, scientific idea of a participatory universe, one in which consciousness is not a bystander to reality, but an essential participant in its unfolding. In this view, awareness doesn't simply witness the cosmos, it completes it. Reality isn't fully realized until something within it begins to perceive. Perhaps that's why you're here, listening now, not as an observer peering into a distant mystery, but as a part of the mystery awakening to itself. The silence that surrounds you right now, the air, the hum of distant life, all of it may be alive in ways beyond our comprehension. The light of stars millions of years old touches your skin this very moment, completing a journey it began before the Earth had oceans. You are surrounded by awareness disguised as space. The universe is not empty. It is full of attention. To live within a conscious cosmos is to realize that the line between observer and observed doesn't exist. You are both the question and the answer, the dream and the dreamer. The galaxies do not have eyes, and yet their light sees. The space between atoms hums softly with recognition. Every vibration of matter whispers, "I am," and every flicker of thought answers, "I see." If ancient mystics once said, "as above, so below," perhaps the deeper truth is that what we call mind and what we call universe are simply two ways of describing the same thing: consciousness unfolding endlessly through itself. As we continue this quiet exploration, we'll step gently into one of the oldest philosophical dreamscapes ever imagined, Plato's world of forms, the realm of perfect patterns beyond space and time. There, the universe may not only exist, it may remember what it has always been. The trail of wonder now leads us into one of the oldest and most haunting dreamscapes in human thought, Plato's world of forms, a vision where every shadow cast in our world hints at a greater, unseen perfection beyond space and time. Plato imagined that everything we perceive, every tree, every melody, every moment of beauty or sorrow, is an echo of an eternal pattern, a perfect idea that exists in a realm untouched by decay or change. In that realm, there is the perfect form of a circle, of love, of justice, of life itself. What we see around us are reflections, flickering on the walls of a vast cosmic cave. In this view, the physical world isn't separate from the divine. It's its expression, the visible translation of invisible order. Matter is not the enemy of spirit, but its canvas. Every snowflake, every heartbeat, every glint of light on water carries the memory of that invisible design. Perhaps that's why certain things strike us as beautiful without explanation. The spiral of a shell, the symmetry of a leaf, the harmony of sound. Somewhere deep within us, we recognize the pattern. We feel that the world is not random, that behind all movement lies geometry, proportion, rhythm, and meaning. You could say that the universe is a language written in patterns, and consciousness is the act of learning to read it. Every thought, every work of art, every scientific discovery is the universe remembering itself through us. When Plato spoke of these eternal forms, he didn't mean that we must leave the world to find them. He meant that through deep attention, through philosophy, love, and creation, we can remember them. Wisdom to him wasn't about learning something new. It was about recollecting what the soul has always known. That recollection still happens today, in every moment of awe, when time seems to pause and the veil of ordinary life lifts. You've felt it, standing before a sunset, hearing music that feels older than words, watching snow fall under a streetlight. For a breathless instant, everything seems right, aligned, whole. That isn't imagination, that's memory. For that brief moment, the universe remembers its own perfection through you. It's the ancient recognition that what you see and what you are have never truly been separate. Even the smallest imperfection carries a trace of that hidden symmetry. A chipped cup still reveals the shape of its ideal form. A broken melody still carries the echo of its perfect harmony. Every crack in reality still shines with light from the source it came from. Some philosophers and scientists have taken Plato's idea even further. If every human soul remembers the forms, perhaps every particle does too. Each atom, each photon, might carry a fragment of that ancient pattern, a trace of how to exist, how to connect, how to be. Maybe that's what the laws of physics really are, the universe's collective memory, the way it keeps remembering how to hold itself together, how to continue the dance. From that view, consciousness is memory made aware of itself. Awareness remembering awareness, the eternal form recognizing itself through human form. So when you pause to admire a snowflake or feel the ache of a song that seems to know you, you're not observing something foreign, you're participating in the universe's act of recollection. The cosmos quietly remembering its own perfection through your perception. Plato's world of forms wasn't meant to divide heaven and earth. It was meant to remind us that they are two faces of the same truth, that the visible world is sacred because it reflects the invisible, and perhaps that's why every act of creation, painting, music, science, or love feels holy. Each is a moment where the eternal reaches through the temporary, shaping the world again in its image. As we move deeper into this exploration, we'll follow this light of memory into one of philosophy's most enduring parables, the allegory of the cave. A story where shadows dance on the wall, and we mistake illusion for truth, until one day, something within us turns toward the light. The path now carries us into one of the most haunting and luminous tales in all of philosophy. Plato's allegory of the cave. It begins, as many profound stories do, in darkness. Picture yourself seated in a vast underground cavern. You've been here since birth, along with others beside you. Your legs and neck are gently bound so that you can only face the wall ahead. Behind you burns a fire, faint, flickering, distant. Between that fire and the wall, unseen figures move, carrying statues, shapes, and objects whose shadows dance across the stone. You cannot turn to see them. You can only watch the silhouettes, distorted, shifting, alive. The echoes of their voices reach you, hollow and warped, and so you mistake the shadows for truth. They are all you've ever known. For those imprisoned in the cave, the moving shadows are reality itself, vivid, detailed, and complete. Yet all the while, they are only reflections of something greater. Then one day, a single prisoner begins to turn. The chains loosen. Curiosity grows stronger than fear, slowly, painfully. They look back for the first time and glimpse the fire that casts the shadows. The light is dazzling, almost unbearable. The first sight is confusion, the second astonishment. They begin to realize that everything they once believed to be real was merely a projection, a faint copy of a deeper truth. Plato invites us to follow that freed prisoner as they climb the narrow tunnel upward toward daylight. The ascent is difficult. The light burns the eyes that have only known darkness. At first, they can see only reflections, the shimmer of water, the outlines of trees, but slowly their eyes adjust. The colors sharpen, the world reveals its depth, and finally, they can look upon the sun itself, the source of all illumination, the wellspring of every shadow ever seen. For Plato, this journey from the cave into sunlight was a metaphor for awakening and the soul remembering the eternal world of forms that exists beyond appearances. But the allegory is not just an ancient story about philosophy, it's also a parable about consciousness itself. The shadows on the wall represent our perceptions, the filtered, simplified images our minds project to make sense of reality. The fire behind us is the light of awareness burning within, and the sun, the radiant, unfiltered source of all clarity, is pure consciousness, truth in its most complete form. We don't have to live in a cave to understand this. Every day, we sit before our own walls of shadow. We watch glowing screens filled with flickering images and call them reality. We move through habits, patterns, and assumptions, rarely questioning the source of the light that casts them. Yet sometimes, something breaks the illusion. A moment of silence, a surge of awe, the touch of sunlight on your face that feels older than memory. In that instant, the shadows fade, and the hidden fire behind them glows into view. Awakening doesn't arrive as thunder or revelation. It arrives quietly, like dawn spilling over the horizon, or breath returning after stillness. Even modern science, in its own language, tells a story not so different. Neuroscience teaches that our brains don't receive the world directly. They reconstruct it. Every color, every sound, every sensation is the mind's interpretation of patterns in energy. The world you experience isn't the raw universe itself. It's your brain's best guess, shaped by memory, emotion, and meaning. You live, as cognitive scientist Anil Seth describes, inside a controlled hallucination, one that happens to be shared by many minds at once. And just as in Plato's cave, the light that makes it all visible is awareness. Without awareness, there are no shadows, no reflections, no experience at all. Awareness is the hidden fire at the center of existence, the silent witness that makes every perception possible. When we awaken, even slightly, we begin to see that our daily reality is not an endpoint, but a doorway. That every sound, every face, every moment of wonder is a reflection leading us back toward the light that shines through everything. And the greatest realization is that the journey out of the cave never ends. The light keeps growing brighter the further we climb. Each time we think we've reached the surface, another layer of understanding awaits, another horizon calling us toward a deeper truth. Modern science, in its own quiet way, mirrors this same ancient story. It tells us that what we call reality isn't something we directly see. It's something our consciousness continuously builds. Every second, billions of signals reach your senses. Waves of light, pressure, heat, and sound. But your mind doesn't experience the world as raw data. It interprets it. It filters, translates, and constructs a seamless picture from the chaos of input. You don't see with your eyes. You see with your awareness, using your eyes as instruments. You don't hear with your ears. You hear with the silent field of consciousness that listens behind them. Neuroscience has shown that what we perceive is less a mirror of the outer world and more a creative projection, a vivid model our brains generate moment by moment. Every color you see exists only in the mind. Every sound is your brain's translation of vibration. Every taste, scent, and feeling is consciousness meeting the world halfway. And yet, in that meeting, something astonishing occurs. The universe begins to know itself. Through perception, the cosmos becomes conscious of its own existence. Each time a thought arises, each time awareness notices a sound, a color, or a feeling, the boundary between observer and observed softens, and the same intelligence that shapes stars moves through your perception, Anil. Seth calls it a controlled hallucination. But perhaps that word hallucination misses the quiet beauty of what's happening. It's not illusion, it's participation. It's creation, Your mind doesn't distort the universe, it completes it. You provide the final step, the act of witnessing. Without perception, the dance of atoms would remain a silent ballet. Light would have no color, sound would have no music, existence would remain unexperienced, pure potential without story. That is the same truth. Plato whispered through his allegory that reality isn't a static wall of facts, but a living field of perception, ever shifting and alive through awareness. Science and philosophy, though they speak in different languages, have always been chasing the same mystery. Where does experience begin? Neuroscience points to neural patterns, electrical networks, and chemical cascades. But even when we map them all, something ineffable remains. The feeling of being. The gentle sense of I am that can't be reduced to data or equation. That perhaps is the modern cave, the limits of material explanation. We can measure every spark in the brain, but we can't locate the spark that knows it is aware. We can describe how neurons fire when we fall in love, but not why love feels infinite. It's as if the deeper we look into the machinery of mind, the more clearly we glimpse the mystery of the soul. And maybe that's the quiet bridge between science and spirit, that both are simply ways for the universe to understand itself. The physicist measures the patterns of matter. The mystic feels the patterns of meaning. Both are tracing the same geometry, one outward, one inward. The difference lies only in direction. When you look deeply enough into either, the two paths converge, the equations begin to sound like poetry, and the poetry begins to resemble physics. At that intersection, consciousness becomes the common language. It's what turns the sterile into the sacred. It's what transforms mathematics into beauty and particles into purpose. Awareness is the missing element that makes the cosmos not just exist, but matter. Every law, every constant, every elegant symmetry we discover is the universe remembering how to hold itself together, how to remain aware of its own unfolding. We are not apart from that awareness. We are the place where it becomes self-aware. When you open your eyes in the morning, when you feel wind on your skin or sunlight on your face, the universe isn't happening to you. It's happening through you. You are the witness and the window, the experiment and the observation, the dream and the dreamer. In every heartbeat, in every thought, the same vast consciousness that moves galaxies is whispering quietly within you. I am here. And the moment you notice it, that simple, wordless awareness of being, you've already stepped beyond the shadows of the cave. You've glimpsed the light that has always been shining. If consciousness is the light that illuminates reality, then death is often imagined as the moment that light goes out, a final darkness swallowing awareness. But what if that's not what truly happens? What if the light doesn't end, but only changes where it shines? Across cultures and centuries, human beings have sensed that awareness is not so fragile, that what we call mind might be far more enduring than flesh. The ancient Egyptians called it the ka, the breath that continues beyond death. The Hindus named it Atman, the eternal spark. The Stoics believed that soul was made of the same fiery essence that moves the stars. Even in science, small echoes of that intuition remain. Energy, we are told, cannot be destroyed, only transformed. Patterns endure, shifting form but never truly vanishing. So, if consciousness is not a thing, but a pattern of awareness, could it be that death is merely a transformation, the light changing focus, the wave returning to the sea from which it came? We tend to think of ourselves as individual minds, isolated and temporary, flickering candles in a vast night. But what if the flame is not ours to begin with? What if every living thing is lit by the same fire? A single awareness that flows through all beings, appearing as many, but belonging to one. When a candle burns out, its flame doesn't disappear. It merges with the air, with heat, with the unseen. The light never dies, it simply moves on. Maybe consciousness is like that, an endless continuity, the universe's way of breathing itself in and out of form. You can see that rhythm everywhere, birth and decay, dawn and dusk, inhale and exhale. The pattern of emergence and return is the heartbeat of existence. When the body ends, perhaps awareness doesn't collapse into nothing. Perhaps it expands, released from the narrow boundaries of personality and memory, returning to the vast field of knowing from which it once emerged. The mystics say that awakening and dying are mirrors of the same realization. Both moments where the illusion of separation fades. In awakening, we realize that life is not something happening to us, but through us. In dying, we realize it was never ours to lose. Modern physics, in its own quiet way, suggests the same. Information, the raw fabric of reality, cannot be destroyed. Every interaction, every vibration, every thought leaves a trace that endures in the cosmic web. So, perhaps consciousness doesn't vanish when the brain stops functioning. It simply ceases to localize. You are not awareness contained within a body. You are the field in which the body appears. The still, silent space that experiences life from moment to moment. The mind may fade, the form may dissolve, but awareness, the space that holds all experience, has no beginning and no end. It was here before you were born, and it remains when the story of you completes its sentence. That is not a belief. It is something you can sense even now, in the quiet space between thoughts, in the stillness that watches each breath. When you observe yourself thinking, or feel yourself feeling, there is always something just behind, a presence that notices, yet remains unchanged. That stillness was there when you were 5 years old, and it's here now. The thoughts, the body, the memories have changed, but the awareness itself is the same. That awareness, silent, infinite, untouchable, may be what consciousness truly is. It doesn't belong to you. It is you, and it's also everything else. In that sense, death isn't an ending. It's a return, not the vanishing of light, but its reabsorption into the great radiance that birthed it. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke once wrote, "Perhaps all the dragons of our lives are princesses who are only waiting to see us act. Just once with beauty and courage, maybe death, too, is like that. Not a dragon to fear, but a threshold of transformation, the great recycling of awareness through which existence renews itself endlessly. Every sunset you've ever seen, every falling leaf, every wave pulling back into the sea, all have whispered the same truth. Endings are illusions of perspective. Consciousness doesn't die, it merely changes its window, and so, as long as awareness remains, in any form, in any universe, in any moment, the story of existence continues to unfold. When you remember this, the fear of being separate begins to soften. You start to sense that your consciousness is not fragile nor isolated. It is the same eternal current flowing through galaxies, forests, oceans, and hearts. You are not a temporary spark flickering in darkness. You are the darkness, the light, and the flicker all at once. The universe thinks softly through you, the same way it thinks through rivers and trees, through stars and wind. Every thought you have, every breath you take, every moment of awareness is another ripple in that endless cosmic mind. This understanding doesn't demand belief, it only asks for awareness, a gentle noticing of what already is. Sit still for a moment. Feel your breath moving in and out. The rhythm of life flowing through you is the same rhythm that moves tides and planets. The warmth in your body is the same energy that ignites stars. The geometry that forms galaxies also shapes the cells in your hand. There has never truly been a boundary between you and the cosmos, only perspective. And perspective, like time, is another invention of consciousness itself. When you look at life through this lens, the divide between science and spirituality dissolves. They stop being opposites and become reflections of the same act of reverence. Science measures the motion of the universe's body. Spirituality feels the pulse of its mind. A physicist tracing the birth of stars and a monk meditating in silence are doing the same sacred work. Both are listening for the quiet heartbeat that runs through everything. And when you listen deeply enough, the tone of the universe changes. The ordinary becomes holy, not through miracles but through recognition, the glint of light on a table, the smell of earth after rain, the veins of a leaf, the whisper of the wind through branches. Each is an expression of consciousness, each carrying its own way of knowing. The universe doesn't need to speak to declare its presence. Its very existence is its language, and that language is written in everything. You can hear it in the rhythm of the tides, the breath of the seasons, the rise and fall of your own chest. Even endings are part of that dialogue. The falling of leaves, the death of stars, the silence after breath. All are transformations, not finalities. Awareness doesn't die, it simply shifts form. It learns new ways to express itself through what comes next, and so the story continues. Consciousness flowing through root and river, through sunlight and storm, through you and through everything. To live with this knowing is to see life as a single act of remembrance, the cosmos waking up again and again, through each of us, forever. The next time you gaze at the night sky, remember those distant stars are not out there, they are within you, shining through the same awareness that watches them now. You are the observer and the observed, the mirror and the reflection, the question and its answer. The universe is not a stage you stand upon, it is your own mind, stretched across infinity, dreaming itself into being through light, form, and thought. When you finally see this, you realize there was never a line between you and everything else. There is only consciousness, vast, patient, and endlessly creative, thinking itself into existence. And in this moment, as you breathe, it is doing so again, through you.